Hello everybody, I'm going to forewarn you right now that this particular clip on the property renovation series is going to run quite long. I've been trying to respect about a 10-minute mark, but I found no good spot to break this. This is primarily related to the flooring installation and all the headaches and whatnot that went on there. So I elected to run it all in one shot, so feel free to tune out, skip ahead, whatever you like. Take care, guys.
Well, hello everybody. I had a comment on my last video where I was showing hooking up all the drains and setting the fixtures and whatnot. And one of you guys had made a comment making sure to use a plumber's putty that is stone safe. And I was not aware of that, and I did not. So I just wanted to throw this in here. The oils in the putty that I used over time apparently will leach out and wick up into your stone and stain it. So I will be taking this off and using a stone safe putty and redoing it. I have to take them off anyway because I need to do a backsplash. So it's kind of a benefit for me, but I'm not going to pass something like that off to the next homeowner to where they're getting nasty looking stains around this granite for the matter of $4. So I'm going to go ahead and take care of that. But I wanted to pass this on to everybody else because, like I said, it was knowledge I did not have. So if anybody's doing something like this, it may help you out as well. I really do appreciate you for letting me know about that little tip there. Thanks a lot, man. Well, I had someone, I can't remember who it was, ask me about, how these windows were actually finished off. So I just kind of wanted to point that out for them. This is just a vinyl window here, and this is of course just sheetrock. So that's what you were seeing there. There is no wood in there. And of course I made the stool, sealed everything in, and of course painted it out. And that's really how these are done. In my house, I did them a different way, even though I'm using standard, like flange contractor type windows. I left the sheetrock off right here, and I put 5/8 material on it, and it still left some of the window here. And then I framed around the corner, and of course have a stool, and then came up and have, headers across the top. It's just another way to do things, but this is just bare bones simple. Well, alright guys, the wood flooring is going in. This was supposed to start yesterday morning at 8 o'clock. Some lame phone call and excuse. 12:31. The dude rolls in. Undercut the fireplace, was chipping it out. He didn't even come prepared. He got a big wide chisel, so he couldn't really get down in there. So when the floor started to go in, he had to kind of scribe around things. And I guess that's one way to do it, or undercut it deep enough right, get it straight, and just stick in a piece. So he had gaps coming out past the stones in places up to 1 inch. You could just look down and see the slab. He was having trouble fitting the boards together in places, and I know why now, and I'll explain that, but you can see the amount of blue tape he has on here. That's because of the problem he's been having. However, he shows up yesterday unprepared, didn't even have any blue tape. He brought out some yellow masking tape, so I tossed him a roll of mine just to get him started. So right before he left, I kind of walked in. He, maybe had a couple of feet coming out here. And the butt joints in a lot of areas weren't even put together. I mean, we're talking 1/8 inch here. Didn't even tap them together or let them come apart while he was monkeying around with things and didn't go back and double check his work. So he feeds us some lame line about, yeah, I'm gonna come back tomorrow and I'll tap all those things together and fix all that. Well, I'm not an idiot. You guys know that. You can't glue these things together and expect to come back after the glue sets and just move them around and tap them together. It doesn't work that way. If you set the board wrong and the glue sets, that's where the board is. There's no coming back for it. So of course today he was supposed to be here at 8 o'clock again. Rolls in about 10:30. Starts trying to manipulate things around. And my wife was just simply asking him, you know, if he thought he was going to be able to correct the problems. And he kind of got up in her business and pretty much just said, you just need to let me do this. So she gave him the evil eye and backed him down. And then, of course, he went out and came back with a different tune and said, you know, hey, look, you know, I don't want to be a dick. And she said, well, then don't be one. She can handle herself. But you can see right here, laying out the front door that's been drug out. That was yesterday's take number 1. He just ripped it out and started over. He owes me a box of flooring, and I will get it. Well, after he left today, I started going in and checking the layout. He really did no layout. He didn't investigate how things were going to go down the hallway on the big span and stuff like that. I asked him yesterday how he was going to determine where he was going to fall down this hallway and how it was going to be oriented. And he said, well, you know, I have to start, you can only start on one wall. Well, yeah, that's true, but you can pick the wall you're going to start on, can you not? So after he left today, I went in super stealth mode, and I'm going to explain to you guys what I'm doing to keep this train wreck on the rails. When he had this laid out, he was a good 1.25 inches off from side to side in the corners here. 1.25 inches on about a 20-foot span. Now you tell me when this thing goes down this hallway what it's going to be like in that corner. It's going to be insane. So here's what I did. I don't want him seeing any of my work. So like I said, I'm in stealth mode. You can see these 2 pink lines on the ground. This is actually a cord. This is not a chalk line. I brought a reference point from that corner out to here, and I did the same thing in that corner and brought it out to there. And I just taped this line down. It's taut, it's straight, all the way down there. This second line over here is another reference point. I came off this wall in 2 spots and then took the line all the way down to the front door. Then I started measuring back. So I just was figuring out which line I wanted the floor to end up on once it gets from there over to here. We ended up picking this line over here, and we just laid some floor down there to see how it was going to lay out. And I also measured, I can't do anything about it now, but measured across here to see that there wasn't just going to be a little sliver in here. And it ends up there's probably going to be about 2 inches there, and then the molding will go on. And over here, it's pretty much just going to hit this wall like that. But once I decided which line I was going to be using, then I measured from that point to the far end of the flooring on both ends that's already down here. And I racked that floor around and moved it to correct his bad layout, to thwart the problem that was going to be up here that I knew was coming. It is not difficult to do things like this if you're thoughtful about your process moving forward, or you're going to paint yourself in a corner. And if you're switching directions on the flooring, let's say we're coming down here like this, and we're going to exit off into another room, you might shoot a 3-4-5 line off this, a perpendicular line into that room, and then start touching off and measuring to see how this floor would end up. If not, you're going to have to cut wherever it turns. You're going to have to cut every board at an angle to straighten everything out. And depending on how much you have to cut there, it may not look good off into the next room. So, you know, I'm not a pro when it comes to this stuff, but I do know how to do some things. So, excuse the phone there. I'm just going to keep talking. You know, so like I said, I'm in stealth mode to correct the bad work, so I'll end up with a decent job. I'm hoping he doesn't come in here tomorrow and rack things around and put it to where he thinks it's right. All right, well, here's kind of the problem with what's going on. You know, some of the boards are warped, crooked, and that's fine. But actually in the boxes, randomly, the actual width of the boards are changing. I'm finding 2 widths of boards. So when you had one that was a little bit, and it's not much, but it's enough. So when he had one that was a little bit wider and he was sticking the next one to it, it was leaving a gap over here, and he just was having trouble getting things to close up. Finally discovered it. So what I'm doing is actually stacking these, going through each and every one and pulling out the ones that are the different dimension, which so far is this stack right here. There's not many compared to what's already been done over here. With the idea of this being stack number one, they'll do a bunch of complete runs with it, use some of the narrower ones and fill in every once in a while, and then go back to this and just kind of use them up that way to get them down. I've still got all this material here to go to. I believe that's 13 boxes. I'm not going to do them all tonight, but I just need to stay ahead of them while they're working. So now I'm involved in the project where all I should have had to have done was write the check. Well, alright guys, the installers came back and did some more work today. Not a whole lot, but a fairly good section, I guess. They were actually on time. You can see that it's much more respectable in the terms of the amount of blue tape they had to use. They had some problems here and there, you know, with boards being a little bit crooked. And that's fine. They're supposed to be not here tomorrow, but back on Friday, which kind of puts a kink in my program. I had a flooring carpet installer scheduled out for this Saturday, and I don't want those two anywhere near themselves, so I may have to cancel it, and this guy's like 3 weeks out, but I've got plenty enough to do if I do have to wait for him. Kind of lets me know if he's 3 weeks out on his jobs, he's in demand, and hopefully he'll be a better person to deal with. Well, I'd mentioned I went in stealth mode last night and racked the floor around to make it square to where it would lay out proper in the hallway once he got there. He was working over there putting in that little section, and he'd already finished this one, and I came over to look at it, and he said, "Man, I got this thing in there perfectly. You see how straight that last board is? I didn't even have to cut a taper on it." And I almost lost my marbles because he has no idea why it laid out like that when he got to it. And then he did this doorway in the bathroom here, and I walked up, and he said, "Man, look how perfectly straight this is across that doorstop." I said, "Man, I did good." And I about lost it again and just simply said, "Wow, well that worked out, didn't it?" That's a prime example on why you do what I was doing last night, so when you get to those areas, they do lay out perfectly, or well within reason. I'd measured off the bottom plate last night and said this was going to lay out at 2 inches. I'm at 1.5 inches right here on the money, and then you add a 1/2 inch for sheetrock, and there's your 2 inches I was measuring last night. So it did lay out exactly where I thought it was going to. It's a nice straight run down the hallway, even though it's not all finished. Nice and straight, not 2 or 3 inches off like it would have been had I not corrected his 1.5 or whatever mistake he had over there in that corner. Alright, well I'm going to pick it apart a little bit, and this is just general information on like a floating floor like this. You need an expansion gap that's left all the way around the perimeter. So as this floor changes in moisture content, it can expand and contract and be free to do that instead of being pinched off, and it might actually cause the floor to buckle if it grows in and contacts the walls. There is an expansion gap here, but when he was installing a lot of these boards, he set the first one right, and I watched him do it. And then when he got to the second one, he was tapping it together, and after he got 2 or 3 boards down, he literally crammed that into the 2x4 underneath. So I had to come back with a multi-tool and slice them off and dig them out through here to allow this floor to breathe and move. You know, the gap there that's required, I guess, is dependent on the type of the floor and of course the manufacturer, but it needs to be there. So had I not done that, and let's say it made contact on the other side, things may buckle, hump, you don't know. But that's just one thing that I took the liberty to correct. Well, so far on all the doors I've encountered that he's undercut with the jam saw, they look like this. They look nice. He did a very good job, with the exception of this one right here. I have no idea why it's like this. The saw was set to a height. All the rest of them are the same, but this one's high by 1/4 of an inch. The floor's fine underneath it. I know because I've been working here for a long time. So I'm not sure if he just didn't have it sitting on the floor or if he had it cocked. Who knows? There's no coming back for that. Nothing I can do about it. Hopefully it will just be overlooked, but I just don't like it. Well, alright guys, I'm just going to throw this little clip in here that may be helpful to other folks. But what I decided to do today was come in and just kill him with kindness. And man, it was fun. He'd kind of get a little bit sour here and there, and I would just say something really nice to him. It was really hilarious watching his reactions. But anyway, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I do believe I'm 100% correct. This may be 6 of one, half dozen of another. Who knows? But if we're going to get technical and anal, which I kind of do sometimes, I came in and I said, look, we got 3 stacks of boards here. This is the wide stack, this is the narrow stack, and these boards are crooked. And he said, what do you mean they're crooked? And I said, well, they're crooked. And he goes, you mean bowed? And I said, well, yeah, a lot of them are bowed, but this stack, they're crooked. There might be some bowed ones in there. And he was like, well, what do you mean? Well, here's what I mean. If you stand a board on end like this and you're looking at the side, and there is a curve in this board is bowed. And it could go either direction. It's just bowed. If you lay the board down and you look at the actual face of it, and there's a curve in either direction, this board would have a crook or it would be crooked. There are 2 more. If you hold the board this way and sight down from one end to the other and they're opposite each other, that board would be twisted. And then the last one, if you look at the end and it's curved up, concave or convex, that board would be cupped. Well, that's what I know about it. But it was kind of fun arguing with him. I let him win in and I said, yeah, they're bowed. And I heard that word all day long. Well, alright, after they got out of my hair last night, I went ahead and laid down some baseboard and put my window stools in. Nail holes have been puttied. I've pre-cut all this business here running down the hallway, but I didn't want to put it in because they were going to be working in here and I didn't want them kicking around on this stuff. So I just got to nail all this down, finish it off. They are finished with their work. The floor is not finished, but they are. But I will say this about the installer I was dealing with. These were not random lengths of boards here. These were all one length. And he did a really good job of racking this floor and staggering all the joints out to where nothing really catches your eye. It's all broken up real nicely. Well, apparently there was another person that came in to help him today that hadn't been here yet. And by the time I got here, it was really too late. They were way off into there, but it's just staircased down through here. I don't know if they'll pick up on the camera, but it's staircased real bad. And it's not really staggered up. Now, when I look down, that's the first thing I see. It's not really just broken up and randomized. A lot of people may not notice that, especially if they're just coming in to look at the house. When they round the corner, they're going to be focusing on the kitchen, not necessarily the floor. They're going to catch the floor first when they come in. There are some things I need to correct and finish, and I'll show those to you. Just some more general information. Quick shot of the hallway, how nice and straight it looks. He did all the hallway, so it's still racked real nice down through here. Well, I need to install the threshold material, and this was never part of the installation of this floor. I always intended to do that on my own, but there is a problem in all the doorways except 2. This is the way it's supposed to look. It should stop right here in the center of this jam stop on both sides, and on this one it does. That way when you put on your transition or your threshold, it is going to fall underneath the center of the bottom of the door. The reason for that is with the door shut, you won't see the flooring from the other room while you're in that room. So I won't see carpet from this side, and I will not see wood floor from the other. I came back to look at this saying, well, how did this end up so straight and great, and how did it get cut so poorly today? Well, the answer is he didn't have to cut this board off. This is the tongue right here. It just so happened when I moved that floor around to get it running straight down the hallway, by some chance miracle, it just happened to fall exactly where it needed to. This board is a full board. It didn't need to be cut at all. Down here, it's a different story. This should have been in the center just like the other board. He didn't get his fence from his truck for his table saw. He just ran this through freehand with a worn out blade, smoking it through there. It took him about 2 minutes to go 24 inches. It was unbelievable. And then this side, it's a good 1/4 inch proud of this. Well, I cannot install this or it's going to stick out into the room. So I've got to cut this material back to where it's supposed to be. I will have to do a little undercut under here, no big deal, but it creates a problem for me, not so much of scribing a line and cutting it with a multi-tool across, taking off my jam stop, but I will not be able to get underneath that with anything but a chisel to clean out the rest so this will fit in and sit where it needs to. It's not straight and it's wavy crooked. Well, that kind of explains why it fell apart today. Now, I was really surprised when I moved that floor around so it would come down nice and straight down this hallway, which it did. What I'm taken back with is I have exactly from this line here to the end of that stop 3/8 of an inch on both sides. I never would have expected it would have laid that well, but I will take care of it. And once I get that installed, the rooms will be ready for carpet. I need to do the tile work in here, and it will get a T-mold across that and a piece of T-mold over there where there's going to be got all the doors and drawers put back in over here. I've got to run a little 1/4 round around the base cabinets and just kind of finish all that off. It's kind of getting difficult to decide what to do because all of it's kind of fun right now. Got a couple doors installed where I can install them. We can set the range, install the dishwasher, you know, do little things here and there. The fun stuff's finally coming up. Well, while I was outside speaking to the other installer, he was a really cool guy. I liked him a lot. The guy who was doing the floor was speaking with my wife while he was cleaning up and dusting, tidying up before he left. And he just said something to her of the effect of that we were the easiest people he's ever dealt with, which kind of surprised me. Well, yeah, we are easy to work with, very easy. We accommodate people, buy them lunch, whatever, you know, but all we expect is a good quality job for our hard-earned dollars. And I had mentioned that everyone else has, you know, hovered over his shoulder and picked apart the work and stuff like that. And with some of the things I knew would have happened here, I can't imagine why one wouldn't do that when they're investing a lot of money in these floors. You know, if they're not running straight down the hallways and, you know, broken up nicely and stuff like that, I don't think that would be unreasonable at all. But I did not get my box that was ripped out and thrown into the yard. Of course, it was when's it going to be here, and it was always tomorrow. And I think he kind of figured out he was going to have just enough material with minimal waste to do the job. And maybe hoping I was going to forget about it. So he asked me for payment, and I said I was deducting the funds, and he can go battle with them for a refund on that if he wants to. And he just said, okay, that's great. And then I wrote him the check, and he shook my hand and said, hey, have a good day. Very strange.